Hey, 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 happy hump day, everybody. Yes, it is Wednesday, and I have to say, the St. Paul, Minnesota raccoon is big news. Yes, it is. If you aren't aware of it, I guess there was a raccoon that started climbing up I believe it's the USB building in St. Paul, Minnesota, and the building is like 23 stories high. So last night, everybody, at least the Twitterverse, was exploding as far as the raccoon because he was already 20 stories up, and people were worried, was he going to fall? He was napping on ledges. Well, I can happily report today that yes, the raccoon is fine. He made it, or she made it, to the top of the building, and animal control in St. Paul, Minnesota took care of it. I got to be honest, I actually woke up this morning and that was the first thing I was looking to find out is, did that silly raccoon make it alive? All right. Anyway, I also want to announce the Daily Dope is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Yes, Jeff McAleer back once again, and I am your host here at the Daily Dope. And I just also happen to be the Grand Poobah of the GamingGang.com. So today is Wednesday, June 13th. Come on in, grab a seat, kick back, relax. I've got some fun on the horizon today. Tomorrow, I will actually be covering Origins Game Fair in Columbus, Ohio with my best friend Elliot Miller from voiceofe.com. So we're driving out later on today. So we're leaving a little bit later on today. So I don't have news for us on today's show simply because by the time the show gets rendered and it's up on YouTube and everything else, I'm not really going to have too much time as far as like posting news pieces, which I always do after the show. Whatever news I feature on the Daily Dope always goes up on thegaminggang.com. So no news today. I am going to take a very detailed look and unbox Cataclysm, a Second World War, from my friends over at GMT Games, because this arrived just the other day and it is a title I am very, very interested in taking a look at. I really am. Looks very, very cool. And I will talk about that in just a bit. So as I mentioned, tomorrow I am going to begin my coverage of Origins Game Fair. And if you happen to be at Origins, you know, some people go for a day or two, go for the weekend. If you see me floating around, be sure to say hello. Just as long as I don't have a microphone in my hand and I'm interviewing somebody. That actually happened one time back at Gen Con a couple years ago, and it was kind of weird. It was a little bit odd. Anyway, so coverage I've got lined up so far. I have Greenbrier Games. I'm going to talk to Julia Hearn. I've got Ulysses North America, because we're going to talk Warhammer 40k Wrath and Glory, the new RPG. Should be talking to Green Couch Games about Before the Earth Explodes, which is premiering at Origins. Looks kind of neat. It's a two-player game that looks pretty interesting. I've also got AEG I'll be meeting with, Ares Games. Who else is on the agenda here? The Podfather himself, Stephen Bonacore. I'll be meeting with him over for Stronghold Games. So lots of stuff already in the pipeline. And usually with these conventions, there's got to be a good half dozen other companies that I just happen to run across that I sit down and do interviews with. So stay tuned next week. I will start showing off some of those interviews. For some reason on my preview, I just saw the video kind of skip, kind of hop. That was a little weird. Got to point out, hopefully the sound is in sync right now. My computer seems to be doing an upgrade that it's not supposed to be doing, and it's irritating me because I have Windows set to not be doing any sort of updates, upgrades, anything like that, unless I give it approval. But of course, it's Microsoft, so they do whatever they want. Who cares what I want? It's only my computer, right? So anyway, yeah, I see it's hopping around a little bit, and that is not cool. Anyway, so today I wanted to share 10 tips for a better con-going experience. And I did publish an article a couple of times over the years about making your convention-going experience better not only for yourself, but also for other folks who just happen to be there as well. So some of it's a little tongue-in-cheek, some of it's a little wise-assed, but anyway, some of these things are pretty obvious to a vast majority of people, but there are those out there who just seemingly don't get it. So I thought I would share this because our convention season is really starting to get into swing, because we've got Origins this week, you've got San Diego Comic-Con, Gen Con, a variety of smaller cons all across the country, all across the world, really. So for the most part, I don't think these tidbits require a whole lot of thought, and there's no monetary investment to pull them off. So if 95% of convention attendees adopted these tips, it'd be a hell of a lot better time for everyone. Of course, what I'm about to share does require a modicum of common sense and a heap of common courtesy. So you can take these tips for what they are worth. I mean, most of this comes naturally to me, but as I pointed out, some of these tips will be completely alien to some folks. So, number 10, personal hygiene. Yes, this always seems to make the list, although I have to say, I've noticed a lot less con funk the past few years, as opposed to earlier in my gaming career. Oh my God, I talk about all the time how back when Gen Con was held in Milwaukee, there were areas in the convention center that people would crash out and sleep in all the time, and they were public walkways. You had to traverse this area, or these areas, to get from, different events and the exhibit hall, things like that. And by Sunday, it was like you would hold your breath and start running. Anyway, still, it goes without saying you should try to shower at least every day, or at worst, every other day. If you're staying in a hotel or motel, then it should be mandatory that you bathe daily. Say money's tight and you're staying in a van down by the river, though, at least bring along the most powerful deodorant you can find, as well as a toothbrush and toothpaste. Maybe a couple of boxes of Altoids to be safe. Also, have clean clothes to change into every day. And I understand some folks perspire more than others, so if that's the case, you might want to have another shirt you can change into and carry some travel deodorant in your pocket. Just pop into one of the bathrooms at the show, freshen up a little, and get back on your merry way. Be mindful, though, that other people have traveled just as far as you have, and sometimes much further, to attend the show, and they have every right to expect to enjoy sitting in on a panel or event or game session without wondering what might have crawled up and died next to them just before they run out gagging. Number 9, the media. There's actually two sides to the same coin here, and that's respect. If you're hanging around at a show and happen to see someone in the midst of an interview, please don't walk up and interrupt them, or walk in front of their camera to go take a look at something. Or, believe it or not, it happens, people just walk right on through and stand in front of the camera and the host and the interviewee completely clueless. If the media member's taking photos or shooting video, don't photobomb them either to get into the shot. All of these things are very distracting and eat up a lot of the precious time which is available to the press covering the show. Damn, I see this thing keeps hopping around here. I want to see something. Don't know. Just trying to take a peek. I swear, I know it's probably a Windows update that is doing this, and that is going to irritate me to no end. So I apologize for the kind of little jumps in the video here. Pretty strange. Anyway, I should point out a vast majority of people with press credentials have also traveled a long way at their own expense to cover a convention, and they're usually running on a tight schedule. Not to mention the additional time it takes to edit out whatever interruptions might take place from the audio, video, or photography before it's published. On the flip side of that same coin, though, if you're a member of the press, you need to respect everyone around you. I get in shows for free, and you know what? I'm privileged to receive some extra benefits as well because I'm considered a member of the media. I always remember that 98% of the folks at a show or more had to pay good hard-earned money to attend, while I did not. Treat everyone you meet, regardless if they're a volunteer, organizer, exhibitor, ticket holders, special guest, or the janitor, or people who work the food court area, politely, because we are ambassadors of the genres that we report on. Sadly, I've seen quite a few people sporting press/media credentials that have been very rude, extremely rude, even shouting out derogatory comments at people. And to be honest, that paints us all in a bad light. Being a card-carrying member of the media does not give you carte blanche to be a jackass. Be patient and stay calm. No one likes to stand in line. Okay, maybe there's some odd fetish I'm unaware of, which involves people who love hanging around the DMV all day. But for the rest of us, being stuck in a line is a drag. Regardless if you pre-registered 4 months ago or you decided to attend a show on that day on a lark, you'll probably be standing in line, at least to get your badge. The staff's trying to get everyone checked in, and they're doing their best to do so as quickly as possible. Computer glitches do happen, especially at larger cons, so understand if something is holding things up. Do try to make the best of it and pass the time by even chatting with the people around you. Obviously, these folks are going to share many of the same interests as you, so why not make some new friends? Who knows, they might tell you something really cool that you never knew about, and at least you'll have someone else to commiserate with, as that line seems to have only moved 30 feet in the last hour. If you find an event you've been dreaming about for the last month is sold out, or that panel you've been dying to sit in is full when you arrive, I've got 2 words for you. Stay calm, or better yet, don't panic. Throwing a fit isn't going to get you anywhere, or at least anywhere with a positive outcome. Just roll with the punch and get into something else. It might even be a good idea to have some backup events or generic tickets on hand in the case of an emergency. I can't tell you how many times Elliot Mueller and I had planned on something, put it on our agenda, only to get there to find out that it was full or sold out or had been canceled. Without fail, we end up somewhere else and have a blast. Possibly a better time than we would have originally. So, don't worry about flying by the seat of your pants. Number 7, perv out on your own time. Yes, sex sells, but no one at a convention is actually selling sex. Okay, maybe at some con in Thailand that goes on. No offense to folks who live in Thailand. But I've never seen anyone selling sex at an event I've attended. Now, I'll point out, I'm a full-blooded male, I'm single, and I love me the ladies. Yet I also realize that you will see some exhibitors even today who have booth babes, and those women are there to entice you to stop by to check out whatever the company might have for sale. One thing I can guarantee is that company is not selling the booth babe, or let's say booth hunk. Once again, that respect thing comes into play. It shouldn't matter if someone of the opposite sex is, extremely attractive. You need to roll your tongue back into your mouth and play nice. This goes for attendees you see in costume as well, as it shouldn't matter if you see the hottest captive Leia in the world. You don't want to ruin someone else's experience by perving out. I know most people will think this should go without saying, but you'd be surprised at how much poor behavior I've seen from people at conventions when it comes to the opposite sex. I am talking men and women, but the vast majority men. It's all right to, if somebody's got a really cool costume, you want to take a picture, that's cool. But I will say something about that in just a moment too. Number 6, watch your mouth. I gotta be honest, I have a bit of a tough time with this one too. So I find the need to mentally note everyone doesn't need to know I swear like a truck driving ex-sailor who did 10 years in the slammer. Kids are everywhere at these shows and you just never know when one might be underfoot. Plus, many adults may not use the same language as you may and could be offended by words that wouldn't raise an eyebrow from your family and friends. Try to keep things PG and you should be good to go. Also, this doesn't just apply to swearing, but also to other topics like sex, religion, politics, or anything else that could possibly set someone off. Number 5, be nice to the organizers. This is important since you might find yourself taking part in a game or event where you feel you could have been much better if you had been behind the reins. As much as we may like to think that, the reality is we probably couldn't, because if we could, we would have been running the show or the event or whatever in the first place. Although I have experienced some poorly organized panels or game sessions. So, on occasions, maybe we could have done a better job, but regardless, we're not behind the wheel, so let the organizer drive. Granted, they might get us lost on the way, but very rarely are they going to run us right off a cliff either. If you really aren't enjoying yourself, you can either just roll with the punches and make the best of it, or just do your best to extract yourself as quietly and with as little fuss as possible. If you go to a panel or something like that you're not completely sold on to start with, sit toward the back. And this way you can excuse yourself rather quickly without creating any sort of disruption. Keep your negative comments to yourself until you're out of the area, and then, if you want, voice your criticism to your pals. If you're involved in a gaming event, this can be a bit trickier since simply jumping up and walking off can easily throw the game off kilter for everyone else involved. My advice there is to just stick it out. It's usually only 2 hours out of your life anyway, so simply do what you can to ensure the other people at the table have a good time. Pouting and sulking and bitching won't benefit anyone anyway. No one's perfect and nothing can be all things to all people. You might not dig how something's being run, and if the organizer asks for feedback afterwards, provide constructive criticism rather than just tossing a blanket statement like, "You suck," out there. Ask the organizer why they went in the direction they did, as far as what you may not have liked. You may be able to help that person provide a better experience for others in the future. Number 4, cosplay responsibly. I have to say, I get a kick out of the vast array of costumes people come with at the various cons. Okay, I don't want to dress up myself, but I surely appreciate the imagination and hard work that goes into a lot of the makeup and costumes. All right, Pinky, you gonna be quiet now? Probably caught Pinky caterwauling. Take a nap, silly. Anyway, I dig all the outfits and costumes and makeup that con-goers create. That said, if I wanted to watch a street performer or catch the Blue Man Group, I would track down a performer on the street or buy tickets to Blue Man. The convention traffic shouldn't have to stop to accommodate a mini performance every time someone stops you for a photo. If you happen to be hanging around in an out-of-the-way spot, hey, by all means, knock yourself out and recite Hamlet if you'd like. I might even swing by and watch for a few minutes. Yet, without fail, it seems that there's always some groups of cosplayers who seem to think that the folks coming to the convention are there to see them. If it's not a cosplay convention, that's not the case. Zombies don't have to drop to the ground and writhe around, steampunkers don't have to put on a little performance, and anime fans don't need to reenact scenes. all in the exhibitors area where thousands of people are trying to make their way from one point to another. Please have a little courtesy for those out there who may not be enamored with yourself as you may. Also, for those of you who want to get photos of a lot of these excellent costumes, if you find yourself in a high traffic area, politely ask your subject to step to the side. This shows you have concern for your fellow attendees as well as the people you're photographing. I can't tell you how many times I've seen someone get plowed into because they've stopped to have their photo snapped. Along those lines, number 3, move along. There's nothing to see. Yes, I'm piggybacking on my previous point, as there are huge crowds at many shows, and everyone, and I mean everyone, is on their way to somewhere to see or do something. Knowing this, I can't get my mind around the number of attendees who just stop dead in their tracks in the midst of the throngs. That text or tweet can wait the extra moment or two until you make your way to the end of an aisle where there's plenty of maneuvering room. Need to get your bearings and consult the convention book to find something? Great. Once again, head to the end of the aisle you're in and take it from there. Or move off to the side. Yes, and this goes for mom and dad too, who brought along that Cadillac-sized stroller. Truthfully, I love the fact mom and dad are there, and they're exposing their kids to the things that they really dig, but you're only running the risk of having the little ones get trampled when you decide you're going to take a breather in the midst of a busy convention area. Number 2, have a plan and throw it out. People don't tend to fly by the seat of their pants as easily as I usually do. So for those folks, I always recommend taking time to go online before you head off to the con in order to get a feel for what you'd like to experience. This isn't to say every second of every day needs to be plotted out, but come up with a bit of a game plan and do your best to stick with it while also being open to something very new and very unplanned. Let's say that you don't get in to see Will Wheaton or Felicia Day, or that Star Wars panel's full, or a guest backs out at the last minute, or the game you have a ticket to gets canceled. What are you going to do? Piss and moan about it for the rest of the day? Oh yeah, that's a good time. No, you're going to open the event book and see what else is cooking. And when you open that event book, don't be in the middle of an aisle. Anyway. One of the great things about attending conventions is the ability to immerse ourselves into our hobbies and interests while at the same time opening ourselves to new experiences. We can geek out on the things we love and have a chance to see or do things we've never seen or done before. How awesome is that? And finally, number 1, everyone is more important than you. Okay, do I really mean everyone is more important than yourself? No. What I do mean is you need to treat everyone you encounter as if they were. You'd probably hold the door open for your boss, and I bet you'd say, "Excuse me," if you bumped into the senator you voted for in the last election. I highly doubt you'd knock over your favorite actor or actress simply to get into an exhibitor's room before they did. This is what I mean with this rule. Event after event, I am shocked by the rudeness I either see going on or experience at the hands of fellow attendees. Thankfully, it is not something that happens constantly, but it does happen. I really don't understand the reasoning behind it, since we all obviously have a common love of what we're there to celebrate and enjoy. So why aren't we all celebrating each other as well? Can it really be that hard to hold a door open for the next couple of people behind you? Or to say, "Pardon me," when you open a door or turn a corner and wind up smack in front of someone else? How tough is a simple please or thank you? Or please and thank you? I don't care if you're the most callous, antisocial SOB who's decided to leave their internet trolling behind to give it a go in the real world, you do not want to be that one person who sours someone else about the convention going experience for the rest of their life. I also don't care how important you may mistakenly think your lot is on this old ball of dirt. You still don't have the right to be rude, spiteful, snide, judgmental, impolite, or any other sort of dick when you hit the convention scene. Save it for your real life when you're only making yourself miserable. Plus, you might not realize how good it feels when someone sincerely thanks you for being nice and politely courteous. Seriously, other folks taking a second to return your kindness makes you feel great. And isn't that why we're all going to the show in the first place? To feel great? So, there you have it. Those are my 10 tips for better con-going experiences. And as I mentioned before, I mean, come on, let's be honest. 99% of the people out there that we run into at all the various conventions already know these things, and they stick to these tips and try to make sure that they don't ruin a good time for other people. Yet, I thought I'd share that because it's been a while. So anyway, all right. So I know a lot of people are tuning in because they want to see Cataclysm, a Second World War. So I'm going to get to that in just a second here. And do want to point out that, of course, in the finished video, I will have a timestamp. So I'm sure a vast majority of people are going to jump right past my 10 tips, which is fine. I just want to kind of share those. And didn't have any news today. So, all right. We are going to take a look at Cataclysm, a Second World War, not the Second World War, from GMT Games. It's designed by William Terdoslavich. No, it's Terdoslavich. William Terdoslavich. Taking a wild stab there, gang. I'm not positive if I'm right or not. As well as Scott Muldoon. Art provided by Charles Kibler, Terry Leeds, and Roger B. McGowan. Too much talking. Too much talking, Jeff. And once again, gotta say, what in the world? Why is that coming up? We're not talking about Roxley.com. Ay. See, that's what happens when you try to squeeze one last show in before you're heading off to Origins. I haven't even really started packing yet. I got everything kind of off to the side, but have not started packing. I need to break down the camera over here and all this other stuff. Anyway, as far as Cataclysm, the game is for 2 to 5 players. Takes anywhere from 90 minutes to about 6 hours to play. And it does carry an MSRP of $79 over at GMT Games. And as I mentioned, this is something I am really pumped to take a look at. So let's swing on over to the other camera here and get this opened up. So from my understanding, there's like lots of cool stuff with this. So the game begins in 1933. So, unlike many World War II games, you'll find a lot of them they'll start maybe 38. Most of them start in 39. This starts in 1933. And the different powers are going to have the ability to really do things that weren't historically done, which I think is very cool. And I'm a big fan of Hearts of Iron, the Hearts of Iron series from Paradox Interactive. And there's a lot of that with the Paradox games, especially their historical games, where you can have an ahistorical outcome. Great example is I play Universalis Europa. Yeah, Universalis Europa. And one time I'm playing as Spain and conquered England. Actually, it was pretty wild. So England became part of the Spanish Empire. Anyway, so I dig games like that. I dig games that allow you to do things that didn't necessarily play out historically, so, but still realistically. So, darn, I forgot to bring my reading glasses down. Rats! So, as I mentioned before, this is for 2 to 5 players. It's a medium complexity. It's about a 5. It's a 5 on a scale of 1 to 9. I always point out sometimes the complexity level skews a little low on the box information. So sometimes some GMT games are a little more complex, but this does seem like this is kind of abstracted in many ways. So it may be right around the middle. Might be medium complexity. Has a pretty high solitaire suitability. So we're seeing it's a 7. It is for ages 14 and up, as I pointed out before. So I believe there are 2 maps to this, or game boards to this. So we're going to take a look. Let's get this opened up here. Come on. All right, jukebox. There we go. All right, so we got the rules of play. Let's take a look at that. Hey, sweet, we got a playbook. Love the GMT playbooks. All right, so rules of play, and it's like, whoa, first time you're playing? So we've got an overview of the game. So it looks like we've got the democratic powers are France, the UK, and United States. Got the fascist powers, Germany, Italy, Japan, as well as the Soviet Union. So I would take guessing it's for 5 players. I would take a stab that you might have players playing both France and the UK, then a US player, probably an Italy and Japan player, Germany, and then the Soviet Union. Just a stab in the dark. So it's talking about the ideology. Cool. We got little boxes here that are showing design notes for it as well. Number of players plays best with 3. And 1 in charge of each of the 3 ideologies. Oh, that's cool. So, okay, so democratic powers, fascist powers, and the communists. So it's talking about how you divide it up. Yep. Oh, look at that. Oh, no. Okay, so with 4 or 5 players, you have 1 player controls the UK and the other both France and the US. All right. So we got setup, game information, negotiations, how to win, talking about the components, talking about the maps, the areas, coastal areas, ports and airfields, area control, various countries, map features, different areas on the maps, it looks like, different units, the dice, crisis tables, there's an action cup. Oh, so I believe, if I remember correctly, I believe this game actually, I don't know if it doesn't have turns per se, that you're actually drawing from, it's like a chit draw to determine who's taking their actions, I believe. So we've got sequence of play, administrative phase, action phase, reserve, interrupting, resolving units and markers, economics. A game of this scale would normally have some serious economic aspects to it. Production as well. Construction, war, offensives, political concepts. I believe a good portion of this game is devoted to building up your armed forces, deciding what direction you want to take with these different armed forces. It's like we've got political actions, power stability. Huh, that's cool. Powers that looks like powers can collapse. Their governments can collapse. We've got surrender. Now we got war. Starting wars, ending wars. There's our political actions here. Different alliances. I would take a stab if somebody really wanted to take this in a wild, bizarre direction. They may not necessarily have to align the way things did historically. Granted, they do have the different ideologies, but I would take a guess. Probably does not take a whole lot to kind of make it a free-for-all. Everybody out for themselves or what have you. As opposed to the Axis, you know, the Allies. Okay, military concepts. Occupations. Talking about land and sea. Military actions. We've got offenses. Augmentation. Building and deploying. Defining different operations, the attacker and defender. Land operations, naval operations, air operations, supply. Well, quite a bit to this. I heard, even though it looks like there's quite a few pages of rules, my understanding is this isn't an extremely difficult game to get into. So we've got combat. Aftermath of combat. Civil Wars? Whoa. Wow, pretty wild. Chinese Civil War. Special power rules. Yeah, the Knight of the Long Knives is a special rule for Germany. Then the Rhineland demilitarized. Looks like Italy's got a Dreadnought refit program. Japan's got rice and water. Washington Naval Treaty. Status quo for democratic powers. Huh, interesting. Very cool. And then we've got a crisis table on the back. Peacetime crises. Sweet. Interesting. Very interesting. I believe there's a card-driven aspect to the game as well. We'll take a quick peek at the playbook. And what do we have here? How many pages did we end up with? About 35? Oh, 39. So the playbook looks pretty sweet. So it's going to talk about how to survive Cataclysm. Nice. A lot of some tips in here. A comprehensive example of play. Sweet. As I mentioned, I always dig the playbooks for GMT games, because they not only give you a lot of historical background about the game, gives a lot of information about how to play the game, examples of various playthroughs, plus strategies as well. A lot of times we'll see strategy information depending on, what faction, what nation, what have you. Okay, so we've got scenarios. Wow, play by email rules. Gosh. I was around back in the day when people were playing by mail. I have never played a board game by mail, but I did actually play role-playing games, sort of, by mail. There was a company, Elliot was part of it too. Elliot and I did it. One was a fantasy game, and the other was like a Star Trek game. And it wasn't all that great. But, that's back in the day. We didn't have the internet. Things like that. We didn't have computers that could, crank out group chats and stuff like that, video streaming and all that. All right, so quite a few different. So Days of Decision, 1937 to 42, 2-player scenario for about 1 to 2 hours. Okay, so here's Cataclysm. So it's 1933 till, not sure, 4 to 10 hours. Wow, that is the complete game there. Okay, so this is a shorter game for the 2 players. The Great Patriotic War. Okay, so we know that's going to focus on the Soviets. So that's 41 to 44, 1 to 2 hours, 2 players. Victory conditions, the Eagle and the Sun. U.S. against Japan, 2 players, 2 to 3 hours. Nice, this is very cool. Hitler's War, 2 to 4 players. And it looks like this is Eastern Theater. War Without Mercy? Huh. So this looks like pretty much everything here. Wow. There are a lot of various different scenarios. I wasn't expecting that. That is very, very cool. All right, then we got designer interview here. So looks like talking to Bill and Scott about designing the game, strategies for the various powers. This is what I'm talking about. This is what's always very cool about the playbooks. Very nice. All right, Pinky, I hear you. Carrying on. A little bibliography. There's a glossary index here. Nice, very cool. And a guide to the counters. Sweet. Nice, very nice. Ah, and then we get the wartime crisis events. I wonder if there's a player aid as well that has these. Kind of a little unusual that they'd put that on the back of the book. Sometimes I do see when GMT does that, they put something on the back of the book. There still is another player aid here. So looks like we got each of the powers are going to have their own card. So we've got the US here. And it's talking about you're going to have your force pool here. It's like no declaration of war, rearmament, mobilization, total war, and exhaustion when war exhaustion kicks in. And then, cool, we've got some historical information about the U.S., a day which will live in infamy. Nice. Then we got France, doomed to rematch. Japan, death is as light as a feather. Got Italy. Looks like we're going to have maybe some minor powers here, too. So got Italy. The return of the Roman Empire. Ha! That's what you think. Got Germany. Tomorrow is mine. The Soviet Union. Better red than dead. Huh. And the UK. We will never give in. Oh, okay, so here we've got special rules. Cool. So special rules for the fascist powers. Base capture naval operation example. Oh. Communist power special rules. And then what we got on back? Invasion operation example. That's nice to kind of have that right there for you too. I guess these are probably the more complex aspects of the game. So we've got the democratic powers special rules. And we get an air operation example. Nice. And of course, as we can see so far, as with just about every GMT game I have ever encountered, production quality is really nice. Now we're going to get into these maps. Oh, they're paper maps. Aha. Okay, so I happen to like mounted maps. I know there are a lot of people out there who prefer paper maps, really. And the reason why they prefer them is because then they just lay down a piece of plexiglass on top or a sheet of plastic on top. So that's pretty cool. So let's kind of zoom out. Zoom out a little bit and see what the maps look like. And these are just areas. The maps are broken up into areas, as you can see here, as opposed to, say, like hexes. So areas, provinces, whatever you want to consider. Now here we got the United States is just kind of one big East Coast, and Canada over there. So we've got Portugal and Spain, France, UK, Germany, Soviet Union, Poland, Czechoslovakia, French North Africa. So basically we're looking at a little bit of the Middle East. So this is the Eastern Theater of Operations map right here. I like the design, pretty cool. I like that. So we've got that. And then we're going to have Pacific, no doubt. Yep. So the Pacific Theater of Operations. So got China, part of the Soviet Union up here. Japan, Philippines. Let's see. There's the Hawaiian Islands. There we go. Right over there. And then we've got the west coast of the United States. So, of course, obviously enough, if you're going to play the big game, you're going to have both of these maps out on your table. Oh, hey, Drew Barbier's popping in. Hey, I didn't miss the war game. Nope, you didn't miss. Well, you missed a bit. Drew's always popping in to catch the show. Started the show a little early today, Drew, because I have got to finish packing for Origins Game Fair, and we're leaving a little earlier than we had expected. All right, so those are the maps there. So we've got the counters for Cataclysm, and it looks like there's a variety of different kinds of counters as well. So it's like armor, it's like infantry, air. Where's our naval forces here? Looks like that's supply. Looks like naval forces here. So that's right there. We got Germany. Then we've got the U.S. France, Italy. And they are dual-sided. So as far as, say, the like the infantry, I think those represent like armies, or they may represent corps, but I'm thinking they're probably going to represent entire armies, and that's where that a bit of abstraction in this system probably pops up. It looks like these are probably control markers of some sort with the U.S. flag on them. Limited war, global war. Nice, pretty good thickness on the counters here. All right, so then we've got the UK, Japan, Soviet Union. So we've got a lot of other markers here as well. Looks like naval. Or if those are supposed to indicate naval bases. Okay. And as I mentioned before, they are dual-sided here. I'm kind of getting the feeling this is a bit of a little bit along the lines of an Axis and Allies, but with more meat on their bones. Drew says his only game con is BGG Con. I've never actually gone to BGG Con. I know they've got more than one now. I forget, there's a show that normally falls during the big BGG Con. And for some strange reason, I can't remember. For some reason, I'm thinking it might have been like San Diego Comic-Con. So, plus, I don't know. I don't think Board Game Geek's all that fond of me, I should say. So we've got a record display, Cataclysm, and Civil War examples on the back of this one. So Drew says one of these days he's going to head to Origins. I like Origins. Origins is cool. My favorite gaming convention is going to be Gen Con. Love Gen Con. I always have a great time at Gen Con. I'm not knocking Origins by any stretch of the imagination. But if I had to choose between the two shows, which thankfully I don't, I would certainly go to Gen Con. So we've got those crisis tables. If you recall, they're on the back of the two books. And I had mentioned, yeah, usually we'll see the tables on the back of rule books as an extra handout. So we've got it right there. All right, and then it looks like we've got player aids. So we've got 3 player aids, no doubt for each of the ideologies as opposed to each of the players. So it's showing us the sequence of play, the administration phase, the action phase, the end phase, line of communications, interests, stability, military actions, operations sequences, determining who's the defender, combat resolution, collapse of governments, Civil War resolutions, surrender, the Chinese Civil War. Interesting that that's included in this. That's pretty cool. A lot of games that cover World War II don't usually delve into the Chinese Civil War, so that is kind of cool. Even though, I mean, the reality is most people figure, well, Chinese Civil War was going on after World War II. It was actually going on during World War II as well. So it was like Chinese against Chinese as well as Chinese against the Japanese. So political actions, provocation, movement, occupation limits. Cool. Nice. And nice stock on these as well. So, what else we got? We got a bunch of six-sided dice of different colors. So, obviously enough, blue is going to be the democratic powers, black is going to be the fascist powers, and red is going to be the communist powers. Then we got a bunch of cubes of various colors. A bunch of wooden cubes. I do not know what they represent. I honestly do not have a clue. So, sweet. I am looking forward to checking this game out. And as with most GMT games, I will have a follow-up video where I'll do a review. This looks like this might be pretty in-depth, so I probably won't do a complete like playthrough or how to play. I'll probably just touch on some of the highlights of the game itself. I do not see cards, so I was mistaken. This is not a card-driven game unless... I highly doubt it. Usually we don't see GMT hiding stuff underneath the insert. I will double check. Nope. So there are no cards, which is cool, which is fine with me. Sweet. So we've got a bunch of wooden cubes. We've got the 9 dice, the 3 player aids. We got the crisis tables, a record display. We've got 2 sheets of counters. So once again, this is not, you would think, a game that's epic like this. It's pretty much starting in 1933 and ends who knows. You would have loads and loads of counters. Here, no, we've got the 2 sheets counters, and a lot of these counters look like they are informational counters or simply markers to show some sort of a status. So we've got the 2 sheets there. We've got these cool little extra aid cards here showing naval operations, invasion operations, strategic bombing, as well as the special rules for each of the different ideologies. Then we've got the various different nation cards as well for the players with some pretty cool information on the back. That's pretty sweet. I do like that. That is pretty nice. We've got the excellent looking playbook, which I will be digging into because I find these playbooks really, really help me learn a lot of the different GMT titles. And then we've got the rules of play, as well as, let's not forget, I'll put these under the rules, the 2 game maps. And that is what we find when we take everything outside the box from Cataclysm, a second world war, from my good pals over at GMT Games. Once again, I will point out that this game is for 2 to 5 players, ages 14 and up, plays in around, well, as few as 90 minutes, and it looks like as many as 10 hours. It is available right now from GMT Games and probably some of your finer friendly local gaming stores. And it does carry an MSRP of $79. As with all GMT games, I like to point this out. I forgot to yesterday when I was talking about Fort Sumter, a succession crisis, 1860 to 1861, that if you are interested in a GMT title, do not sit around waiting to pick it up. because GMT does not put out huge print runs. So a lot of their games go out of stock rather quickly. And if it's something you're really interested in, you don't want to have to A, sit and wait for another P500 to probably see another print run, which is obviously enough, usually at least a year down the line. And B, you don't want to have to pay extra to get the game from the secondary market. So if you are interested in Cataclysm, by all means, snag it up while you can. All right, so that is it for the show today. Once again, when you're not watching The Daily Dope, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, comics, movies, TV. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. No show tomorrow, no show on Friday. I will be at Origins Game Fair. So keep your eyes peeled. I will start having some of the interviews popping up maybe as early as Sunday night, probably on Monday. I will probably sprinkle in some of these shorter interviews or the more entertaining interviews in episodes of The Daily Dope next week, while others I'll probably just post as separate videos themselves. Anyway, once again, I'm Jeff McAleer. Enjoy the rest of your week. Have a great weekend. If you're going to Origins, if you're going to pop in there, say for the weekend, something like that, you see me floating around, be sure, say hello to me. Say hello to Elliot Miller, my best friend. Most people recognize him as well from his time at the Gaming Gang, as well as over at voiceofe.com. So until next Monday, like I said, enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend. And as always, thanks for watching. Thanks again for watching The Daily Dope, presented by The Gaming Gang. If you like this episode, be sure to give it a quick thumbs up. And if you dig the channel, please subscribe. If you'd like to check out our previous episode, click right here. And if you want to check out a somewhat randomly selected episode, give a click right down here. It'll be like opening a box of Cracker Jacks. You just don't know what you'll get. Once again, thanks for watching, and I'm Jeff McAleer.